bad movies, bad life advice, and even worse life decisions. We cover it all here on the Life with Kenny podcast. I'm your host, Kenny. Grab a beer, sit back, and relax for this week's episode, because things are about to get weird.
What's an all-American girl like you doing with a geek like this?
Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw.
Jimmy was off the hook. I know you really don't listen to Slipknot.
Does your Rhino?
You are listening to a Life with Kenny podcast.
Not quite my tempo. It's all good. No worries. Here we go.
Fucking woman.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Life Legends, episode number 8, I believe. I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Patrick.
All right, no eye gloop this week, which is nice.
And Kyle.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, boys.
Cup say?
It says smash.
Smash. Should I smash it?
It's a Hulk. Don't smash that cup. I'm going to see Avengers Endgame tonight, and
Are you? Why tonight? Why didn't you go watch it the other night when all the other virgins went?
Well, because I was going to, but I didn't want to buy tickets twice because I told Melissa that she should come with me, so I had to wait till she was off one day at work.
Oh, fair.
So I'm going to go tonight, but the past 4 days trying to avoid spoilers for that movie have been probably some of the worst like internet fucking navigating I've had to do in my life. Even just clicking like a random meme that's like Nicolas Cage singing Prince at karaoke, and then you open up comments and right away the top one will be like, yeah, Thanos kills blah blah blah, and I'm just like,
you know, I don't get spoilers. Like for me, if I see something about a movie, it doesn't really spoil it for me because you still haven't seen
you know Mr. Bean dies, right?
Well, imagine watching Force Awakens, because this happened to me, and right before you go into it, somebody tells you that Han Solo was killed.
Really? He dies?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't care.
It ruined it for me. It ruined the experience, because it ruins the surprise. It's like watching a movie. It's like watching Sleepaway Camp and knowing that it's going to end with her with a dick out. It totally...
I knew it was going to end with someone having a dick that shouldn't.
But I just mean...
We just didn't know who. It could have been anyone at that point. Every character was fair game.
But yeah, no, like for me, it just ruins the surprise, right?
Yeah.
It ruins the first time experience, which is kind of something Patrick did somewhat recently when he watched Overlord, when I had mentioned that I wanted to watch that for the podcast.
So salty.
So, yeah.
Is that a video game one?
No.
It should be.
Should be.
What's
I
that
feel like
video
it'd be
game
good.
that you used to play that was like Overlord?
Yeah, there was one called Overlord, a video game called Overlord, but...
Yeah, I remember you and Dad used to play that all the time, and I'd have to sit there and watch you guys play it.
Yeah, this is probably the most garbage fucking game I ever played.
It's fucking shit.
It's
and I have the second one
terrible.
too.
Yeah.
My dad's favorite game, because you could get these minions drunk. You just like feed them beer, and then they get wasted and puke on all the good guys.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is you have to be the bad guy and take over the
Super dumb.
towns.
I've been playing World War Z a lot, actually.
You were telling me that. How is it
It's
still?
really fucking good.
I started playing.
Look what I found.
Oh, you found his
good.
knife. I started playing Far Cry New Dawn.
Yeah, I don't really see the appeal for it because it seems a lot like Far Cry 5.
In what sense?
In the sense that there is a antagonist and that there is a protagonist. And that it's somewhat of a revenge story.
Weird.
And
It seems like story writing.
I imagine.
Interesting.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. There are outposts that you have to clear.
Yeah.
Ah, wow. That's unreal. That's weird for a Ubisoft game, isn't it?
Yeah. I
That
mean,
is
for a
odd.
Far Cry game, is that what you'd want for a Far Cry game? Is for it to feel like a Far Cry game?
No, like I had a bunch of fun with Far Cry 5. I haven't had that much fun since Far Cry 3.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I thought the stuff in between was ropey at the best of times.
Yeah, there was a lot of hit or miss stuff in Far Cry 4 for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't played Primal, but New Dawn, if you like Far Cry 5, I feel like it definitely just feels like an expansion pack for it.
Yeah, but they released it as like almost a full game, right?
Well, so the issue was they had, instead of releasing it as 3 expansion pack add-ons, they just released it as one game. So they did that in the past, for example, like with the Halo ODST. Do you know about that one?
Yeah.
So they released that as its own game as well, but that originally was just supposed to be an expansion add-on for Halo 3, I believe. So games are doing that, and honestly, for me, I prefer doing that as its own game.
How much does New Dawn cost?
I got it for $20. It was on sale $20 this past
Fair.
week.
See, World War Z is just like its own thing.
It's like
a full game.
$60,
But
right?
yeah, it's $50.
Yeah.
And it's because they knew that it's not a AAA title, and it's pretty much meant to be played multiplayer only.
So it feels like, I think you were telling me it kind of feels like Left 4 Dead.
It's Left 4 Dead, third person, but based on the World War Z movie.
Because, yeah, they're talking about there's rumors of a new Left 4 Dead coming out.
Yeah, there is, but there's also been rumors about Half-Life 3 for the past 200 years.
Yeah, just like that new Tool album.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like all the reviews for World War Z are weird as well, because everyone's like, you know what, this isn't half bad. Like, no one had very high expectations for it because it's a movie game.
Yeah, I mean, how did you feel? Did you guys see World War Z, the movie?
Yeah, I loved it.
Really?
Just because I like stuff like that. I thought the ending was fucking abysmal.
Yeah.
And I would really very much rather have seen maybe like a sequel. I feel like they could have probably cut that movie short.
And just added on at the end and made a second one.
Yeah, they could have left it at like him supposedly finding this cure almost.
Yeah.
But have it not work very well, but be slightly advantageous when fighting the infected. Because I know in the book there was...
You read the book as well?
I didn't read the book. No,
I love
the
book.
My sister read the
good.
book, and she said that it was... And you probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more based on humanity trying to recover from but because they've managed to defeat it by leading them into like choke points.
It's
which
like,
is what I really like about the game, because you can do that.
It's like it's basically like a many different point of view type thing in the book. So it's like you'll have like the point of view of a guy who's in an apartment complex in Japan, and he's basically just going room to room looking for survivors, and in every room he's like finding people with their wrists slit in the bathtub, and then he goes down a corridor, down some stairs, and then he sees there's zombies there, and he's like, okay, well, I'm trapped on the 15th story of this building. What do? I have to try and jump to get past them. And it's like like a pretty emotional, like well done book. And I feel like this is kind of nerdy of me to say, because I feel like Harry Potter fans say this way, but when are the same way. But like when I watched that movie, the whole time I watched it, I was like, oh, I wish they would have just made the book.
Yeah.
Because like the movie was fine.
Yeah, there was. It's probably kind of weird, but my favorite shot in the movie is where the plane lands in that Korean. I think is it North Korea or South Korean?
I don't remember.
There's like an airbase in Asia somewhere, and it's just a shot of the plane, pitch black with pissing rain, and that really fucking got to me. I was like, if I was on that plane, I would be like, nah.
My favorite scene
for me
is around that time when they have the floodlights on, and there's a guy, he's running up the ramp to get on the plane, and he slips. It's my favorite. That's my favorite scene in that movie.
But yeah, the game is real good because it's different characters for every country.
Oh, really?
It takes you from New York to Jerusalem,
that's really
Moscow,
cool that New York is a country.
And Japan as well. Well, it's like the 4 different states.
I'm
Fuck you. But like all the characters are different. You've got like 3 different missions within each area.
Right.
And I've been playing it with a friend of mine on the very hard difficulty, and it is fucking terrifying.
I believe it.
Because it is genuinely just a copy and paste of Left 4 Dead with slightly less interesting special infected. But when you fucking see those zombies piling up, and because it's on very hard, it's not a one-hit kill like it is for other difficulties. Like you have to aim for the head.
Right.
So pretty much every zombie at the bottom of those like piles is all shielded by the flesh shield that
and you
is
have to
everyone
hit
else.
every single head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just get overrun so quick.
I don't know if I have it in me anymore to play horror games. I just like my anxiety is so bad the older I get that I can't really keep up with it. I have to turn it off right away. Try to go to something more chill because it just gets too fucking...
I found Dying Light really triggered that for me.
I would only play at daytime. I would not even... I would go... As soon as it started getting dark, I would just go to sleep.
Yeah, I'd never played it with headphones on, and I tried it once, and I had to take them out.
Yeah,
because hearing those things run behind you is fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the second game, actually.
Sweet. Well, let's include Kyle in this talk a little bit here, because Kyle doesn't play video games all that much, but
Ever.
Well, you used to play a lot of Nintendo 64 games. You started collecting them for a while there.
I wouldn't say I played them.
Oh, well, I guess maybe you didn't. So Kyle, the last episode of Life Legends, you had teased talking about Action Point, which is the newest Johnny Knoxville movie. Patrick, are you familiar with Johnny Knoxville?
Oh yeah.
So you know about like all the Jackass saga. Did you see Bad Grandpa?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle,
Have you seen The Ringer?
Yes.
That's one I want to do for the podcast and revisit. See if it's as offensive as I think some people might.
Have you seen the movie Without a Paddle?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah,
that's on the list as well.
I first heard about this like Johnny Knoxville movie because he was on Dax Shepard's podcast where they talked about it, and it's basically he watched a 12-minute documentary that's on YouTube about this place called Action Park.
Yeah.
And it was
I think it was in New Jersey, wasn't it?
It's Vernon. Not sure where it is.
Yeah, I thought it was in New Jersey, but yeah, sorry.
I think it might be New Jersey. Anyways, so this amusement park was like pretty creative in their time.
Yeah.
And
that's putting it lightly. Are you familiar with Action Park at all, Patrick?
No, I didn't know it was an actual place.
Okay.
So it was an amusement park I think
Vernon is in Philadelphia. Well, I don't know why I
look it up,
that.
Kenny.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
There's a town called Vernon in Pennsylvania.
Well, at least in the movie, that's what they said it was, and I'm pretty sure he said in the podcast that's where it originally was too.
Yeah, Vernon Valley, New Jersey.
New Jersey, there you go.
Yeah.
So there's this amusement park that's been around for a while, and basically it's just a place for teenagers to go fuck around.
Yeah, it opened in 1978, I think. So yeah, it's been around for a while. I think it was around till like mid 90s.
Yeah.
So it was around a long time, and this place was famous for what, Kyle? You're the one that watched the movie somewhat recently, so you probably have a little bit more information on this than I do.
It was just famous for it was a place for kids to go where they could do whatever the fuck they wanted because there was no adults basically. Tons of injuries and stuff, and the big kind of like unspoken rule was like you hurt yourself and you don't say anything.
Right. It's just kind of like
because you don't want it to close down.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's kind of how you were as a kid, right? Like if you get hurt, you realize it's your own fucking fault. You were doing something stupid, and you just move on. Whereas now, it's become a whole thing where if you get hurt, like that one actor recently who said he got beat up by a bunch of white guys and it was a racist thing.
Yeah,
and then it ended up being he was making it up, and he was just saying, well, that's how I feel society treats me. Like, have you heard about this at all?
That was I heard something about that.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up, but it was somewhat recently, and it's just like people at this point are just almost making shit up so that they can get money out of it or fame or whatever. But Action Park was before that time, where if you broke your arm, you just went to the doctor or the hospital, and that was the end of it. Like you wouldn't sue the place.
It was basically you paid to get in this place, and it was an amusement park that had very, very unsafe rides that the people fixing these rides were like 14, 15-year-olds. The people running these rides were that young. And it was a pretty sketchy place to go, but it was mostly just locals when it started out, people that went there. And they were one of the first places to put in a wave pool. And they put the wave pool in when there started to be other competition. There was another park that opened up, and it was a big park that was really enforcing safety. And when that park opened was when a bunch of amusement park safety acts came out, and this park was trying to basically close down this other place.
Right. So what they did with their rides essentially was they would see or hear rumors of, oh, there's like a water slide that does a loop-de-loop, and they basically were just like, oh, we need one of these for our park, but they didn't want to put money into like buying it or getting it built. So the guy would just put parts together from old water slides to make his own loop-de-loop.
Yeah, basically
he'd illegally make his own rides and stuff.
Basically, they were
safe.
like, so for the loop-de-loop, they were like, okay, so we're gonna make a slide that just goes like this, and like drew it with their finger, and they fucking had someone come and build it, and the someone that came and built it was just a bunch of teenagers that were like, yeah, we can do that, and so they built this thing, and in the documentary they talked, like the people that used to go there and some people that worked there, they talked about it, and they were like, yeah, he after it was built there, he was like, okay, $100 to the first person that goes down it, and fucking kids volunteered to go through this fucking death trap. So it was a pretty insane place. There was really no rules. They had rules posted.
Well, like, you know how they have like height and weight restrictions where they're like, oh, if you're this tall, you can't go on the ride. They were like, fuck it, go on the ride. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. And then people would go flying off and break their leg or whatever.
And like if someone would get hurt, they would adjust it by, like, if someone went on a like a T swing that goes over or off of like a big cliff into the water. There was someone that had swung and didn't let go and swung back and hit a pole. All they did was take a bunch of foam and wrap it around the pole for next time.
That's how you live, man.
Yeah. And so after seeing this documentary, Johnny Knoxville decided, he's like, yeah, I'll make a fucking, that's like cool. That would be a cool movie. So he makes this movie, Action Point. It's all based off of it. There's quite a few things exaggerated, but also a lot that weren't. There was, like, in the time that this was open, there was 6 deaths that occurred there, and tons and tons of different things. In the documentary they talked, I'm pretty sure he said 3 of the deaths were in the wave pool. And
there's something like that.
The issue with the wave pool was they didn't regulate it very well, and they had the waves were on for too long, and the waves got too high, and people were drowning because they said that one of them, the guy, was too drunk.
Well, so another thing too is the kiosks where you buy tickets for things all the time, they served alcohol out of those as well. And they didn't check IDs very regularly. So you had 14-year-old kids ending up at the hospital that were just shit-faced drunk, and the parents would come to the park and get all pissed off about it, but there was like no way to prove it because by then their kids were sober or whatever. And all the guy did was like just say, I'm going to talk to my staff, and that was pretty much it. The staff didn't care because they were all underage kids that got drinks for free too, right? So
yeah, there wasn't really any regulating stuff. It was a legit amusement park, the real park. And like in the documentary they talked, like, there was, to get to I think they called it like a T swing is what it was, and it was basically like a T handlebar.
I think they called it the Tarzan swing.
So yeah, and it's basically just a bar in the shape of a T that's attached to like a pulley that you go on. There's like a river kind of thing, and there's like those wooden bridges that go on both sides of it, and you basically get in a lineup, and you start on one side of the bridge, and the lineup to get on the swing goes all the way to the other side, and then you jump off and swing in between the two and drop. So while you're waiting in line, you can see everyone swinging. And so in the documentary they were like, yeah, like that was one of the craziest things to see, because while you're waiting in line, you got free entertainment of other people. You either see people doing cool things like backflips, or you'd see people belly flop, or you'd see old drunk guys swing on there with one hand and whip their dick out and show it to everyone. So they were like, yeah, like I was like a 13, 14-year-old dude watching a drunk old dude whip his dick out.
There's Lou Pearlman being like, who wants to be in the next band?
Yeah, so it sounded like a pretty cool place, and I can see why he made a documentary or made a movie about it.
And well, especially like just saying like, oh, people got injured constantly. That just screams Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah. And so he made this movie. He did all of his own stunts. He broke his face while doing this movie.
So I think what happened at some point, he went on some sort of water slide that they built.
It wasn't a water slide. It was called the Apex slide, and basically what it was is a cement slide.
Oh yeah, I remember this. They had a stuntman to do it, and he had a vision of how he wanted it doing, and the stuntman did it a few times, and he was like, "No, I'll just do it."
And he did it, and the whole thing was to crash, like go off the edge of it and crash. And basically, it's a cement slide that you go on a little tiny, like 4-wheeled plastic-looking car thing with no brakes, and you fucking go down it and try and make it all the way down, or go as fast as slow as you can and you want,
like a snake run almost.
Yeah, so he goes down it and he flies off, does it perfectly, like exactly how I want to do it, but smashes his face into the ground, and basically the bone.
I think he almost broke his neck too, didn't he?
Well,
he thought he was paralyzed or something.
He was scared to move. But so what happened was he smashed his face, and the bone that's in between like your eye and your nose turned to dust.
Yeah, he as far as I'm aware, he didn't know that anything was that wrong.
Yeah.
But then he gets home that evening and he sneezes,
and
his eye comes
out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he calls the director and says, "Yeah, my eye just popped out."
Yeah. So how do you hear about this?
I watched like an interview with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny when he talked about it.
Of course your eyes popped out. He said, "No. Seriously, man, my eye is like out."
And he said like the next day on filming there, he was like anytime he'd have to laugh, he'd have to run away because he couldn't laugh because his eye would start vibrating out of his head.
Well, I think I heard something too where he like broke his dick one point too. I don't know if it was this.
That was on Jackass.
But have you heard about this? He like broke his dick. He couldn't get an erection for like 6 months. He wasn't like, if he did, he'd have to go back in because it would rip his stitches.
Yeah, he ripped his stitches quite a few times.
And he'd just be peeing blood, but he had to be filming too, so he'd have to do these stunts where he purposely ripped his dick open just to get the shot, and then he'd have to go back in, get it stitched up again. Like Johnny Knoxville is like a glutton for punishment, and I have so much respect for him because he's such an idiot and he does such stupid things that he's like proving Darwinism isn't a fucking thing.
So I know Steve-O was also terrifying. I remember listening to a story. He was at a party at college or something. He was really fucking coked up, and he jumped from either a second or third story balcony and just fucking plummeted to the ground.
Yeah, and he was trying to go for a pool, but he missed it completely. Or something.
Yeah, his friends came out and they just like searched his pockets for drugs.
Yeah, took all his shit,
and they just left him dead.
Yeah, I heard that story too. Yeah, so Action Park was a pretty fucking crazy place. I believe it got closed down.
I think mid-90s.
Yeah, and it reopened in 2012 or 2014.
No way.
But it reopened with the reassurance of being a very, very safe place, and now it's called Mountain Park, I believe.
Yeah,
but same
is that
facility.
true?
Yeah.
But the same facility. And so I added, after watching this all, my bucket list is also to go to that fucking place because that'd be so cool.
Mountain Creek Water Park.
Yeah.
In Vernon, New Jersey.
Yeah. Same
Jesus.
place. And another.
it opened in 98.
Is that when it reopened?
Yeah. Action Park closed in 96 and Mountain Creek Water Park opened in 98.
Right. It did open right away, but the original, like the son of the guy who owned owned Action Park, he and a couple other people that worked there, because he was a kid when this was open, and he worked there. Him and a couple other people that used to work there rebought it in like 2012 or 2014.
Yeah, so it looks like 2010 it was sold to a group led by someone. And then it was under new ownership, changed back to Action Park beginning in the 2014 season. For 2016 season, it was reverted to Mountain Creek Water Park.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Lots of history there. They said they have lots of the original like rides, but they're not. Obviously, you can go on them, but they're for display purposes.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely something that I wouldn't mind checking out someday too. Cool. Well, I don't know what brought that up for you to want to talk about that.
It was just super interesting. And like, I don't know. I know you like fucking water parks and stuff. So
man, water parks are my life. I'm like I'm only getting one vacation this whole year, and it's 5 days. I'm literally purposely going to a water park. Like me and my girlfriend Melissa are going out of our way to go spend 5 days. We're gonna go to like a zoo, the art galleries, the museums, but we're doing a whole day dedicated to the indoor water park.
Remember when we went to that water park when we were young in BC there?
Yeah, so there was an amusement park in BC. Actually, I should look it up because I looked it up recently and it looks so decrepit and bad. I have no idea how people purchased any tickets to go there. But it was an amusement park in BC. I believe it was in the Okanagan. And it was called what was it called here? It was called Dino Town in Cultus Lake, British Columbia. So if anybody's interested in that, you can look it up.
Yeah,
but
that was the Flintstone one. But
yes,
I'm talking when we went back with Grandma and Grandpa, and we went to that.
We went to one in
water park.
Yeah, where was that? Kelowna.
It wasn't in Kelowna, but
it had 8 water slides or something.
That was the place where Blink-182 filmed their music video.
Oh, really?
For I think First Date.
So there was this water park that me and Kyle used to go to when we were kids, when we went to BC to visit my aunt and uncle, and it's basically like PC Cola Flintstones amusement park.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember seeing like everything, thinking it was actually the Flintstones, but then when I went back and looked at pictures of it, it was like Fred with blonde hair and Barney with black hair, just so that they could get away with copyrights and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I remember it way different as a kid too than when I looked it up a couple years ago.
Because there was like a log ride or something.
Yeah, it was really shitty, but it was open for a long time.
Yeah, like I can't remember. It was probably mid 90s, I'd say, late 90s. We went.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think it closed down somewhat recently, but...
Do you ever go to any crazy amusement parks or water parks?
I'm pretty much terrified of rides.
Yeah. See, I used to be so scared of heights and rides and stuff until I went to the States with my wife and her family, and I was like, I might only do this once. So I just went on every fucking ride.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I've just never... I don't like flying either.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of a similar feeling. I feel like I've got a really sensitive stomach because even when a plane just makes like a nice natural movement, I just want to throw up.
How was your flight here the first time you came?
Oh, the flight was fine.
Yeah.
I still hated it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So when
I didn't hate the flight here because I was so excited that I didn't have to go home.
Yeah. When you came here, I've always been kind of curious about this. Did you bring a lot of your belongings, or you just sold everything before you guys came?
I bought one suitcase and a guitar.
So like clothes and stuff like that, some electronics or what?
I bought my phone, my guitar, and some clothes.
And everything else you sold before you left?
Yep.
You just like had a garage sale or what? How does that work?
No,
there?
I sold everything on Facebook. Yep.
Did you have a lot of shit?
I actually, because I sold my apartment as well, which I'd owned for just over a year. So I ended up coming to Canada with something like £7,500, which was like 14 grand or something.
That's a lot of money.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, just showing Patrick a throwback to the Flintstones, Bedrock City, Dino Town pictures from the 90s. It just looks like really shitty fucking mascots and stuff. But yeah. That's a big chunk of change to move here with.
Well, yeah,
like decently.
I think it ended up being closer to like $9,000 or $10,000.
14,000 pounds.
No. Like I had £6,000 or £7,000, which was closer to like 9 grand, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it all went pretty quickly because we had to obviously buy a car, get furniture for an apartment. But we had a good starting point which was nice.
Yeah.
Like you guys had family and stuff here.
Yeah, we stayed with Raf's brother for a little while.
Yeah, that's cool.
We chipped and got our own place. We were originally going to not work for like a few months, but after 1 month, we both wanted to kill ourselves.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's like the big issue is you think you're going to last a lot longer than you
I'm like
do.
a big advocate for having time to myself. So being in a house where there was always other people was kind of debilitating at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, so this week we're not doing any particular conspiracy stories or anything like that. We will have a game later on where I will tell these guys some movie summaries, and they have to tell me whether or not it's a real movie or fake movie. But for now, we're going to tell some personal stories, because I think it's been a while since we've shared some personal stories. So we've all kind of wrote some stories down that we thought would be interesting to talk about with each other that maybe each other like haven't even heard before. I might have heard some of yours. I don't know.
I don't think you have heard these ones.
Because you said most of them are from primary school, right?
Yeah. So you guys
Sorry, I brought it up again.
You guys did all the crazy shit when you were teenagers, right?
Well, kind of. Like
It
was
like,
weird.
It wasn't
because,
like Action Park. But
because
like,
me and Kyle were like, we were weird teens because we didn't drink, we didn't do drugs, we didn't do any of that stuff. But we hung out with a lot of people that did, so we kind of got in trouble by proxy. Like
we also thought that like we could make our own Jackass movie, but without filming it.
Yeah, it's
a lot of points.
Just doing a lot of stupid stuff just because. And like knowing everybody else was like drunk and stuff, so it was like we could maybe get away with more. Like I pranked people probably more often than I normally would, just because I knew they were like intoxicated and like maybe not all there, like a little bit stupid in the moment. Like for one instance, I challenged a friend he was super drunk, and I challenged him to a water chugging contest to try and sober him up, and whoever finished the water last had to eat an entire ashtray of cigarette butts. And I was more so joking because I wouldn't have done it. But as soon as he finished, I put the pressure on for him to eat them, and there's this guy fucking 2 a.m, he's just wasted, just chewing on cigarette butts, and everybody around us is just, as Patrick would say, gipping. Just gagging and
that is rancid.
But there's just like things like that, little things that you don't think you'd normally get away with, but just because they're more impressionable, I put the foot down on that stuff a little bit more.
I tended to learn a lot about consequences because of the stuff that I did in primary school.
A lot of line writing, or what?
So what's the first one that I've got here? Okay, yeah. So there was this one lad, and he was one of those guys that hits puberty like before he even leaves the womb. You know?
Right, he had a mustache by the time he was 7.
Yeah, this guy literally had like almost a full beard when he was in he must have been in 6th grade, or like year 6 is what we call it. And I was probably about 8 years old, maybe. I was like a couple of years below him. And he was fucking big. He was an absolute unit of a bloke.
Right, so like he was the alpha in his family. His dad was just like a little bitch by 6th grade.
Yeah, his dad was a cuck as soon as he was born.
He like slapped him in the face. He's like, I'm fucking mom now.
what?
Yeah, that got a bit out of hand.
I think that's a stand-up bit, but I can't remember who did it.
Yeah, he stole one of my shoes, and I really wanted it back, so I decided to try and get him, So I ran at him, and I just jumped on his back. And it was one of those moments where you sort of like, all right, well, what's your plan now then? You're on this kid's back, and he's just walking around like you're nothing. So I was just trying to devise this plan, and before I know it, he's thrown me halfway across the school field. And I land like on my hands and knees, but a fucking twig goes straight up my left nostril. And you know when like something fluffy hits your nostril and your face kind of goes,
Yeah,
it was like that because I could feel something poking my brain. So I fucking pull this twig out of my nostril, and it's just gushing with blood at that point. So I decide, he comes over and he's like, so I turn around and say, your mum's a fucking slag. I had no idea what that word meant. I didn't have a clue. But of course, as soon as I said that, the teacher was stood right next to me. And she's just like, he's looking at this 8-year-old just throwing around phrases like that. And she says, right, get inside now. So she threatens to call my mum.
I think about moments like that, and I think like if I was in that position, how hard it would be for me not to laugh at that 8-year-old.
This little fucking kid go, your mum's a fucking slag.
And you have to get mad at him for it.
I was an adorable child as well, and I very rarely got in trouble. And that was too much. And
yeah.
She was like, do you know what that word means? And I'm sat there going, no. Well, it's not nice. Don't say it. And then she threatens to call my mum, and I basically sit in the playground on my own in a shadow, pretending to listen to Coldplay. So yeah, that was a relatively rough day. And I think
one would say in that shadow it was cold playing by yourself.
Yeah.
Just gonna let that one simmer for a couple more seconds. There we go. So yeah, that was a pretty rough day.
So you got a fucking stick up your nose.
Yep, and then lost 15 minutes.
And you didn't go to the doctor or anything for that?
No, I had nosebleeds all the time. It's all right.
It was his massive cocaine addiction when he was that age, though.
So there was another day when I was a little bit younger, I think, and it was like preschool. I'm pretty sure it's one of my relatively interesting memories from preschool. And we used to have this like big playroom inside for when it was a bit chilly outside, you know.
When it was a cold day to cold play.
That's it, yeah. Fuck me, man. Oh, it's suffering. It really is.
Sorry.
God damn! You should make those jokes at the end so we don't lose half of the listeners halfway through.
Both of them.
So yeah, we had this playroom, and there was this big like sand pit that was like waist height, I think, because you could build sand castles and
inside.
Yeah, it was inside. Oh. You could build all sorts of different stuff. It was one of those things where you could like dig for stuff.
Oh yeah. I had one of those too.
Right?
I know what you're talking about.
But for some reason, I was stood there and I was staring at the sand for a good couple minutes. I was like, "What happens if I throw this?" And I pick it up and I'm looking at my hand, thinking, "All right, what do we do now?" And I see the teacher from across the room. She fucking clocks me straight away. She's looking at me thinking, I fucking swear to God, if you throw that shit, I'm going to knock you out. So she starts walking over.
So it was a preemptive attack.
Yeah, well, she starts walking over and I've got this sand. I look at her and then I look back at the sand and she gets about a foot away from me and I just fucking launch it straight at her. She's covered in sand. It's in her shoes. It's all over her top and everything. And she looked fucking livid. I can't remember what actually happened, but I sort of I looked back.
Good sign of what
I looked back at the sand pit and I was like, yeah, probably don't do that again.
See, I don't remember. I never remember stories from like elementary school, probably because I blocked them out. But when you say that, it reminded me of like one time, because like you said, like the sand pit thing. I remember having one of those in my class too, and I remember a kid puking in there. Oh. In the sand pit, and like then we got rid of all the sand and they filled it with water instead. So then we had like a fucking little, I don't know, water play pen thing that you just fucking have little boats floating around.
That's jokes, man.
I remember like when I was younger, there was this thing called Care Partners. I was thinking about this recently. I thought it was like the weirdest thing. Do you know what Care Partners are?
You got to remember, I'm not from here.
Okay, so Care Partners was basically where a class of, let's say, 30...
It'd be like grade 5 and 6.
No, it would be 30 grade 8ers, like kids in grade 8, and then 30 kindergartners would be paired up, and they would have like a period in the day where they would, like once a week, where they would get together and they would go to the library and check out books together. And like, I always thought that was just such a weird thing, because it was like, okay, for this half hour, we're just going to have these grade 8ers babysit our fucking students so we could go fucking, I don't know, have coffee break or something. I just thought it was fucking weird.
I remember doing that in like grade 5 and 6. Getting paired up with kindergartners.
Because I never had to do that, but I always thought it was just so strange. Like an 8 year difference.
You would go to the class and like teach them how to use scissors for cutting shit out, and you'd play Play-Doh with them, like
doing the teacher's job.
It was ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, I just thought it was such a strange thing. But yeah, anyways, back to your stories. I apologize. I just thought that was a weird thing.
So, yeah, threw some sand. What else happened? There was a incident in a school assembly. So we used to have to sit like cross-legged on the floor.
Yeah.
And listen to the teacher chat bollocks and stuff. And it was nearing the end of the assembly. And you know when you've got a fart, right? And the only thing keeping the fart in is the ground. Or like the thing you're sat on. And I didn't know this at the time because I hadn't really had to punt for many farts before. I was still a young lad. So I moved from my cross-legged position to like knees up with the hands on the knees, slightly more comfortable on the ground sitting. But as I do that, I rip the loudest fucking fart. I'm talking this like... because I've just fully released it. So everyone in the fucking assembly turns around and looks directly to where I'm sat. So do you know what I do?
You point at the kid next to you?
No, I start looking around as well. I'm like, who the fuck was that? Good Lord. Everyone's fucking sit there staring at me like, don't try and pull that shit, you fucking liar.
We had a girl do that in high school. And everybody looked at her and she did the same thing. And everybody was like, nice. Oh, we know it was you.
See, when I was in elementary school... my best friend was he would be the one that would like rip the farts and like make everyone laugh about it. So It was never like no one tried to hide it at that point because he was the coolest kid in the class. So if he could fucking get away with farting as loud as he can, everyone else could too.
It has one of my favorite stories about one of Kyle's best friends growing up is I went to a movie with them one time. I don't remember what movie it was, but his friend just liked doing things in public that would make you feel like kind of embarrassed, but like not overly embarrassed, if that makes sense. And one of the things is we all went to a movie, and he would get into the theater, and he'd just pop his head in, and he'd go, "Hey Kyle, if you're in here, we're all going to Chris's after the movie." And then there's like an awkward silence. And we knew it was him saying it to Kyle, right? Like, it's just like he did shit like that all the time. So every time I'm in the theater and I see somebody pop their head in, I'm like, oh, that's a good memory. Because it's just.
The one time he did that, he stuck his head in. Like, he did
like
that.
During
he
the
did
movie.
that all the time. So he'd go to the bathroom. And when he'd come back from the bathroom, he'd like say something and then wait like 10 minutes and then come in the theater. But he'd come in, he'd stick his head in just to like piss anyone off he could. Wow. And the one time he came in and he said that too, but he used like someone else's name. But he's like, Ashley, are you in there? And he's like, Ashley, we're all going to Jared's after the movie. Make sure bring your extra popcorn. We're all bringing our popcorn.
And everybody's just like, what the fuck? What is happening?
Oh shit.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of good memories. Your assembly one reminded me of this girl in high school. We had this friend, Vince Vaughn, actually was at the assembly. I think it was a pep rally, and we were sitting with our class. I think we were in grade 11 or something. Oh yeah. And this hefty girl, a girl that got made fun of a lot for her weight, was wearing this like whale tail thong. It was like sticking out.
Bless her.
And like our friend would think it would be funny to like stick pencils in the girls' butt cracks when they're sitting, and it was showing. I don't know why he thought it would be funny, but we all got a kick out of it. During the assembly, he didn't have a pencil, but he just looked back and said, "Watch this," and he snapped her thong on her. And the girl got up and like walked over to the teacher, and I just remember the teacher pulling him out of the pep rally, and everybody was just kind of looking because it was this big scene in the middle of like people announcing who the new fucking soccer team was or whatever. Just this kid gets dragged across the entire gym in front of everybody by his ear and just gets yelled at for like basically was told he was like sexually assaulting her and stuff.
That's nuts.
But the worst part is after that, because people saw him do that, everybody was like, "You got to quit teasing her, man. We know you like her." And it was like this girl that he thought was disgusting. So it was like this big thing. It turned into like kind of like reverse bullying. It was like, you bully somebody, we're going to bully you back. It was kind of like I don't want to say a good memory of high school, but it was a memory for sure. But yeah, I think you got a few more primary school stories.
Yeah, I've got
the traumatizing ones that we mentioned in our first episode of the podcast.
So there's these are the titles of the stories that I had written. So we've got Stick Up Nose, Mum is a Slag, Throwing Sand.
Oh man!
So the remaining 2 titles are Killed a Guy with Netball Post and Tripped Over a Kid. So which one do you want to hear first?
Killed a guy with a netball.
I want to
post?
hear about when you killed a guy.
Okay, so there was this. We used to have these netball posts.
You're
right?
like, what are the rules on manslaughter?
Yeah. So like those like movable basketball hoops, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had those essentially just these big metal fuckers on wheels, right? And you could just wheel them out into the playground, and people would play like either basketball or netball, whatever you want to do. And
what is netball?
Netball is like basketball, but as far as I'm aware, if you have the ball, you can't move.
Okay, I got you.
So you got to pass it.
Yeah, you have to like get the ball,
Bring
chip
it up
it.
there. Gotcha.
And me and I say friend, he bullied me until I got twice the size of him.
Right, so friend.
Yeah. His name was also Patrick, weirdly. Well, I think he's now actually just a crackhead, which is nice. And he said, I bet you can't lift up that netball post. And I was like, fuck you, yes I can. So I pick this thing up, and I'm lifting it. I'm thinking, fuck me, I'm strong. And I get it out of the little, like, the holder.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting real fucking heavy. And I'm like, I cannot fucking hold the weight of this, holy shit. And this little kid comes fucking running from the lunch hall. And this metal post fucking literally just clips his bag on the way down. And I fucking swear to God, that shit would have killed him. It literally would have killed that child if it had landed on him. He'd have been fucking gone. This lunch lady was stood there like literally nearly in tears because she nearly witnessed a kid die. And my friend stood next to me like, you're well strong.
And you were just like held your knuckles out and you're like, thanks, bro.
That reminds me of a story too in elementary school.
When I murdered a child.
Where I almost got murdered.
So some kid was lifting up a netball net.
This was the first. This was the first and only time I got expelled from school, and I was in grade 2.
Okay, I think I remember this.
I had this friend who did a lot of bad shit. Like
he went on to be like a fucking gang member in like grade 5 or some shit.
Yeah. And so he was I guess my friend because I don't know,
because we went to a ghetto school, and if you weren't friends with him, you were a victim of him
in a way. And so we had track and field day at our school, and I don't know if you had them, but
sports day.
We had big mats, like basically like stuntmen mats that like for high jump, where you set up your high jump posts and you jump over them sideways and land on them, and they were like I would say like 3 feet tall.
Yeah, it was just pure foam.
Like 8 foot long by 4 foot and 3 feet tall, and it was basically a big giant thing of foam with like a rubber kind of mat around it. And we were working with our care partners actually setting these up, and the care partners thought it was a good idea to like stack them all beside the school. And my friend in grade fucking 2 knew how to climb the school. And so I followed him up there, and we both went on top of the school. And he was pretty like athletic kid, whatever, but he fucking did a flip off of there. And then he was like, come down, like do it. And I was so fucking scared to jump, and I was stuck up there. So he climbs back up there and fucking pushes me off. And that was like the most terrifying thing of my fucking life. And when he pushed me off, the principal was standing right there and was like I got the shit fucking like tore off. Like, man, I got in so much shit. And then, I got expelled for that, for getting pushed off the fucking school.
Suspended. Expelled means you're like out of the school.
Right, suspended. Yeah.
But I just remember you coming home in trouble, and I had no idea what it was for, and I still like mom and dad would not tell me because
I got fucking suspended for getting pushed off of school.
I was gonna say, why didn't you like try and like pin it on the other guy and just be like, shouldn't he be expelled then for fucking pushing, like literally throwing me off the school?
Yeah, he got in shit too, I'm sure, but
Yeah, so Patrick, you got one more story there?
I got one more, yeah. So this is a pretty nice and quick one, and I to this day have no fucking idea why I did this. But there was like it was literally a line drawn on the ground which separated the preschool from the primary school. And it was like a separation of the playgrounds.
You can say segregation.
Yeah, so the ghetto and the other place. And this fucking... I
The
feel like
whites and the colours.
the way that I remember it is it was the fucking kid that I nearly killed with a netball post. It's just the same fucking kid, just fully pegging it from the primary school. We all had the same lunch hall.
You probably just thought you had something out for him. Hey,
Yeah.
This kid was just always running.
He definitely thought it after this because he was fucking pegging it to the lunch hall to get his seat. And he had his lunch. He was ready to fucking roll. And I'd just come out of class and I just walked out like into the playground. I could see him running. I thought, fucking hell, he's going there. I wonder what happens if I stick my leg out.
Yep.
So I literally put maybe like... It must have been just my foot. I literally just moved my foot forward a little bit. And this poor fucking kid, he is fucking flying, right? He is going, son. And I can hear him like on his way towards me. I stick my foot out just a little bit, and his foot just fully poof, straight into my foot, like the significantly bigger foot from his.
And arms at his side, probably fucking face first, hey?
No, he fucking flies. Like his foot hits mine, and his other leg at the fucking pace he was going, it just makes him go horizontal, and he fucking carries on for a good 2 feet before just going to the ground.
Oh god!
And then so he hits my foot, and then I start walking away. So I don't even see the kid hit the ground, but I just hear this like, and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta bail. So I start pegging it to the field and just sit in this little bush where me and some other kids are usually just chilling, shout swear words.
Like your mom's a slag.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that was my primary school.
Fucking bully, hey?
Yeah, right. Well, this is why I was such a good kid later on in school, because I realised, don't do that. Don't do those things ever again.
There's still like a piece of me every time I go to a supermarket and I see some kid running around that wants to just stick my foot out just to see what would happen. But then I'm like, I know what would happen.
You see, this is why I don't
go to
do
prison.
it, because I've already done it.
But just imagine like hearing that story of like 27-year-old man puts kid in hospital because he thought it would be funny to stick his foot out at the supermarket.
You don't just trip him over, you fully fucking clothesline him with your forearm.
Yeah, man. I did a lot of stupid shit when I was young. I know Kyle did too, but one of the dumbest things I ever did was under the guidance of my cousins. Are you familiar with the chokeout game?
No, is that something you and your uncle played?
Yeah, my uncle was a priest. No, so the chokeout game was this thing where I wasn't really positive what it was at the time, but my cousins told me that if you do it, it makes you feel really, really good. Basically, they said it's almost like taking drugs. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that you'd get a high from it.
And also, we thought our cousins were really cool at this point in time.
My one cousin was the one that introduced me to Linkin Park and Our Lady Peace and all these fucking bands that I later on went on to like. But I'd only seen them like once every few years. They were like 4 and 7 years older than me.
Fair.
So they were probably like almost high school age at this point. And me and Kyle are pretty young kids. And we went over to their house for like Christmas one year, and they had some friends over, and they were telling us about the chokeout game. So what you do is you inhale and exhale, big deep breaths as much as you can, and then you do it as fast as you can, and it makes you really lightheaded.
Don't try this at home.
And to the point where you're about to pass out. And then what they do, what I've seen some people do, is they push on your chest so that your lungs can't breathe. Mm-hmm. What my cousins did is they wrapped their hands around my neck and choked me so that you can't breathe at all, like that. And you like lose all oxygen. You pass out completely. But when you wake up, your endorphins rush back and you're supposed to get a high from it. They'd choked me too long. I fell. I hit my head on their pool table. And apparently I wasn't waking up. and they didn't know what to do. They weren't going to like tell my parents or anything. I remember waking up underneath the pool table as if they like pushed me under to like hide me until they could figure out what would happen. And I remember like kind of looking around and stuff, and then I started to panic because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't see. My vision was almost completely gone. I was so young and out of it. I'm pretty sure what happened is I just got a really bad concussion from it. But my mom ended up, we went upstairs because my cousin told me she heard somewhere that incense heals anything. So they basically held my face in front of incense, making me inhale direct smoke from incense.
Wow.
Thinking it would heal my lungs. But the issue was I was already having trouble breathing. So I was just like choking. And I just remember the next thing I know is I was being taken to either the hospital or a minor emergency clinic or something. And then I don't remember much except for being at home in my bed and my mom coming in to make sure that I wasn't falling asleep, because if I fell asleep, I would die, is what I was told. So that's why I'm pretty sure it was a concussion. And I just remember laying there and so zoned out and just hearing the Powerpuff Girls playing on the TV and wanting to change the channel, but I couldn't find the remote and I couldn't see anything, so I couldn't like get up to find the TV.
And see, this, like, I was so young that I don't even really like remember this at all. So, and you're only like 2 years older than me. So that was a long time ago.
So I would have maybe been, I'd say 8, 10 at the most, probably younger than that. So like, yeah. The part that like, it's weird because I think back on this and like when I was younger, I didn't think much of it. But when I play it back and if I was in their situation, like I'm thinking about the steps that they were doing and stuff. Essentially what they did was they pretty much thought they murdered me and just pushed me under the pool table until they could figure out what to do with me.
That's brutal.
And I woke up like blind basically. And I think it took like 2 or 3 days for me to fully get my vision back and like breathing and stuff. So that is why I'm brain damaged now.
But like that chokeout game thing, it got popular after that, like a couple years later.
It was like 2 years after that. There was a big thing on Dr. Phil, I think, of like people almost dying from it. I think a couple people die from it.
It was like on like CTV. They were like, make sure your kids aren't playing the chokeout game.
Yeah, like it was on the news and shit. That's why I'm kind of surprised you haven't heard of it. But yeah, no, it was one of the scariest memories I have growing up. And that was all just because I wanted to be cool and fit in with my cousins. And to this day, like I apparently me and Kyle got in so much shit from stuff that they used to do that we don't even remember because we were so young. Like one time we were at my grandma's and apparently the parents had came down and there was like bubbles coming out of the washing machine. And I guess what my cousins had done is they just poured dish soap into it and turned it on. And when they wrecked the washing machine, the parents came down and grandparents and stuff, and my cousins blamed it on me and Kyle.
Nice.
And me and Kyle got our fucking asses whooped for it.
And they admitted it like fucking 10 years later in the family reunion.
Yeah. It was like, it was brutal because I was like, oh, I just remember getting beat a lot, but I didn't know why. I just thought my parents were just like aggro
and
about
something
it.
they like my parents or my grandparents, they collected a lot of like antique things and refinished like antique stuff. They owned an antique store for a while. And they had this this table in their living room that was like pretty expensive antique table, very like articulate and whatever. And something like my cousins had carved shit into it or something. They wrecked it somehow. And me and Kenny got fucking asses whooped for that one.
And let me point out too that my parents weren't like abusive or anything. They just like give us a little fucking spanking once in a while. And I think that's why we turned out like as good as we did, probably because I think it probably deterred us from actually wanting to do more that would make them upset.
Yeah.
But I love you, Mom and Dad, if you're listening to this. But yeah, so the chokeout game was one that I thought of recently that I thought I would talk about. And then I remembered a story that happened with Ethan once too that I thought you might find funny because he hasn't been on in a while. Maybe I'll tell this story real quick and then we'll jump into the game. So, if listeners don't know, Ethan is a reoccurring co-host. He hasn't been on in a while because I think he got a life. But essentially, there was this girl that everybody kind of had a crush on. Let's just call her Ashley in high school. And she used to hang out with our group. And Ethan is the kind of guy who knows everybody. Like the most obscure person. Like if you had gone to Superstore once and seen a guy somewhere when you were like 10 years old and he was like 45, you'll be like walking through the mall with Ethan, and that guy who's like now 60 will just stop you and be like, Ethan, how's it going? like he knows everybody. You'll go to a bar and some guy who's like a raver will say hey to him, and 2 seconds later a metalhead will say hey, and then like a country guy will say hey. Like he knows everybody. Damn. So he knew this girl. We didn't go to the same high school or anything, but he came over to hang out one time, and he's like, "Oh, I know her. Like we'll hang out." And he thought that he would win her over with his sense of humor. So we were telling your mama jokes, and she was laughing at them. She was the only girl that was there that day. I think there was like 3 guys and then her. Ethan made a joke that was essentially. Your mom's so bald her head slipped off the pillow. Pretty basic joke. Mm-hmm. Not even that funny. The issue is, Ashley's mom the week before had lost all of her hair due to chemotherapy.
Oh. No.
So a devastating blow for somebody that he kind of knew, but didn't know enough that he should be throwing jokes like that around.
Oh, fuck. That's brutal.
And I think her mom eventually did end up passing away, but it was just like one of those things where every time Ethan came over...
Mom jokes are not a good thing to do.
Every time Ethan would come over and he'd start making jokes, we'd all just look at him and be like, just be careful who you're joking to, like about what. Even if it's the lamest joke like that, it could mean something to someone.
Yeah, we had another friend that had an incident with his mom getting cancer, and him coming over right after it happened, and everyone was telling your mom jokes around the fire, and that was a fucking pretty shitty time after we found out what happened.
Yeah, well, like we didn't know, so everybody was making your mom jokes, and then we're like, oh, why did they stop coming over? And it's like, well, his mom's dying, so
yeah, it wasn't good.
We're like, oh, that makes sense why that hour of your mom jokes didn't really pay off.
Damn, man.
So yeah, this has been a life lesson from the Life Legends podcast, I guess.
Don't tell your mom jokes.
Let's lighten up the mood here a little bit. So one of my favorite things to do in general is watch terrible movies. For example, by the time this comes out, you will have heard our episode, our movie night episode on Hard Ticket to Hawaii, which is widely known as one of the worst ones ever made. But for this one, I'm going to read you guys some movie plots that I have either written or found on the internet of movies. And we're going to do 2 things. You guys are going to tell me whether you think this movie is a real movie or a fake one. And also whether or not you might want to throw it in the bucket for the podcast for one day. So I have a few here. You guys can keep score whether you get it right or not. You don't really have to write down the answers this time like we did the last episode. But you can just keep track of your score. If I catch you drawing pictures, you will be disqualified.
Seems uncalled for.
All right, so
Stumping my artistic talents.
Are you boys ready for real or fake movie plots?
Kyle, put your knife away. Stop being a sore loser.
He's like, what do you mean, Grandma and Grandpa? Who carved stuff into the table? And he's got his knife out. Okay, so the first movie is called Spirit of the Samurai, the 6-year-old Shogun. I can't even say it. Walking to her weekly martial arts class, 6-year-old Lao Ying is tragically killed in the crossfire of a Yakuza gunfight. Her father is visited by a mysterious man at her burial, where he is gifted a scroll with mystic powers. Rumors of a giggling ninja start to arise shortly after bodies start to wash ashore. Is that a real movie plot or a fake one?
It's fake.
I'd say real.
Why do you think it's real and why do you think it's fake?
Because it sounds like the sort of shit you'd make up.
What's your fucking credibility behind that?
Knowing you for over a year. Fuck you. There's credibility.
He's known me for how many years?
Yeah, well.
I just picked the opposite of Patrick, to be honest.
Yeah, that one is a fake movie that I did make up.
Man, of course it is.
So what about that gave it away, though?
She sounds like the sort of
soon
shit.
as you-
Fucking magic squirrel.
As soon as you said, like, fucking ninja and stuff like that, I checked out.
Man, right?
Oh, you checked out? That's why you were just like, oh, it's got to be real. It's so boring, it's got to be real. Okay, so this next one. The movie's called Steve and Stella. 25-year-old Stephen Levy works in a nursing home where he meets Stella, a 78-year-old woman with 3 months to live. After winning a romantic trip for two, Steve decides to take Stella for the adventure of a lifetime without the permission of her family and the nursing home. Get ready for the road trip of a lifetime.
How did you spell Stella?
How the internet spelled it?
How's it spelled?
Stella.
I'd say real.
Fake.
Okay, why though? You guys got to give me reasons why you think it's real or fake.
You go first.
Fuck off.
I'm just picking,
you're
I'm
just gonna be
picking
like-
real.
But what about that makes you think it's a real movie?
I don't know. I just picked real. I don't fucking know.
Okay, Patrick, why do you think it's fake?
I'm pretty sure you've used the word Stella to name a British character before.
On what?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I've heard you use it.
Okay, well, that is a fake movie plot that I made up, but I don't remember ever using Stella for anything.
You definitely did. Fuck.
I just thought it was a good old woman's name, but
Nope.
is that a movie you guys would want to see made?
No. Honestly. Definitely not if it's made by you.
Sounds like a D movie.
Okay. Transylvania 65000. And it's not 65,000, it's 6-5,000. Okay? That's important. Tabloid reporters Jack Harrison and Gil Turner are sent to Transylvania with two choices: find the Frankenstein monster or find new jobs. But before the jumpy journalists can dig up their big story, they must first face the horrors of an extremely clumsy butler, a nymphomaniac vampiress, and a semi-mad doctor, as well as assorted mummies, werewolves, and more Transylvanian oddballs. Can these two bumbling heroes unravel the monstrous mystery, or are they in for some very scary surprises?
I'd say real. It doesn't sound like you wrote that.
Yeah, real.
6-5,000? Yeah, that's a real movie.
There's way too much shit in there for that to be written by you.
Okay, so this one is called The Show Must Go On. I think there's 10 movies here. Controversial metal band Electric Lizard book a gig of a lifetime, but after a mix-up with their booking agent, the group turn up to a country music festival without any gear. Can they win over the crowd of country music fans with banjos, bongos, and the help of country musicians, the Oak Ridge Boys? Will they leave a changed band, or will they have to leave it all behind?
Fake.
The Oak Ridge Boys, yeah? That sounds like the sort of shit you'd make up. The Oak Ridge Boys.
I'm going to get Google out for you here.
And what is that? Like Electric Zombie, you said, or something?
Electric Lizard.
Electric Lizard.
Most of these movies are 80s movies and 90s movies.
What was your band called back in the day?
Who fucking cares?
Yeah, I know. I think that's fake.
Okay, so the Oak Ridge Boys are the guys that sang that Elvira song. My heart's on fire.
Nope.
Boom ba bow bow. The Oak Ridge Boys. So the movie's called The Show Must Go On. It is starring nobody because I made it up. That one, actually, originally I was going to write the plot for that Country Bears movie that I showed you about. And I was like, fuck, I showed him that. A group of bears start a country band in cross country. And
nice.
Yeah, so I changed that up. This next one is called Earth Girls Are Easy. In this musical comedy, Valerie is dealing with her philandering fiancé, Ted, when she finds that a trio of aliens have crashed their spaceship into her swimming pool. Once the furry beings are shaved at her girlfriend's salon, the woman discovers 3 handsome men underneath. After absorbing the native culture via television, the spacemen are ready to hit the dating scene in 1980s Los Angeles.
True.
God damn, you guys are good at this. That's a real movie. So Valerie is Gina Davis, and the 3 aliens from space are Jeff Goldblum, Jim Carrey, and Damon Wayans.
Damn.
This is a movie that I want to watch for the
probably
podcast.
not
It's
bad
called
idea.
Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah, you could throw it in there.
Okay, so this next one is called Love Dummy. Todd Phillips is an up-and-coming comedian in between acts, but when his father dies, he inherits his legendary ventriloquist dummy, Tammy Knockers. They hit the road together to perform one of the strangest acts anyone has ever seen in this strange 1996 dark comedy. For Todd, it's not just dumb love, it's a living.
I think that is a real one. I think I've heard of it.
Fake.
You see right fucking through me, Patrick. Yeah, I made that one up. God damn. I don't know how you're doing this. Jesus. I tried to fuck up the order, too, so that it wouldn't be so obvious, but god damn. So what is it about these that are giving it away?
It's the way you're reading them for me.
Yeah, for the ones that you didn't write, you stumble on words because it's not familiar.
Yeah.
Well, for the first 2, it's because I have the actual fucking people's names in brackets here, so I have to read it while skipping the brackets.
What could you do? You should do this game, but next time, have the text-to-speech guy read it out. Mallory Knockers.
Yeah, that would be good.
Because then it wouldn't give it away so much.
Right. Okay, I'll try that out next time.
Yeah,
But
no worries. Just keep rolling. This is fun, though. I like this.
Okay.
Mainly because I'm winning. Fucking you go.
We should get Patrick to write some for the next one.
you know what? I would actually, I would
you
like
and
you
me out.
guys to come up with some games as well. It would be nice, like I mentioned in the past, if we could switch off with
Do I look like a game show host?
conspiracies and
Yeah.
stuff. Well, I think you could come up with anything though, like even like a 1 true 3 or something like that. But
Rock, paper, scissors?
there we go. Okay, so
Genius.
this next movie is called Dead Heat. Roger Mortis and Doug Bigelow are cops that are chasing crooks that are dead serious about crime. Or should I say they are chasing dead crooks penetrating serious crimes. Seems some nutcase has learned how to bring back the dead and is sending them on crime sprees. Now these indestructible goons are in a way of officers Mortis and Bigelow. To even things up, when Mortis is killed in the line of duty, of course, he gets a jump start from the resurrection machine and takes the fight to the zombie bad guys.
False.
Fake.
It's a real movie called Dead Heat.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to throw you guys off with my reading.
How many you got there?
He's got all of them, but the last one.
How many is that though?
6.
6?
5 out of 6, I think.
Yep.
I got 3.
So this next one's called Holy Toledo. While babysitting her neighbors, a teenage girl switches bodies with one of the kids' toys. Stuck in the body of the action hero Jerry Toledo, Jessica Townsend must take the kids with her to a downtown voodoo shop in a rough part of town to switch back and have the kids tucked in before the parents get home at midnight.
Fake.
Holy Toledo.
Fake.
Okay, what makes you guys think that one's fake?
Town said.
Sounds like the kind of name that you would use for a person.
So the idea for that one that I wrote was from the movie Adventures of Babysitting. It's a really good movie that I want to do for, but yeah, that's a fake one. I got Your Last Action Hero. I tried to take that with the other one and like,
Fair.
damn, you guys are good at this. Okay, so this next one is called, don't judge me too hard on this one, by the way. This next one is called Soul Man. In order to win a scholarship, Mark Watson, the white son of an affluent psychiatrist, pretends to be black on his application form. When he's accepted, he alters his hair, skin, and speech to conceal his true identity. At first, Mark believes that going through law school as a minority will be a breeze, but he soon begins experiencing racism. Eventually, Mark falls in love with Sarah Walker, a black student, and begins to feel guilty about his ruse.
Real.
I think it's real too.
It's a real fucking movie.
Yeah.
How is that a real fucking movie?
That seemed way too far-fetched for you to just come up with.
I wouldn't normally just come on here and be like, so a white guy pretends to be black and just like pitch it as something that I came up with. Okay, so this is the last one. It's called Tammy and the T-Rex. An evil scientist implants the brain of Michael, a murdered high school student, in an animatronic Tyrannosaurus Rex. He escapes, wreaks havoc on his high school and tormentors, and is reunited with his sweetheart Tammy. Together, the couple try to elude the mad scientist and police and find a more appropriate vessel for Michael's brain. Are you fucking Googling this?
No, I was literally just checking because Raf's leaving now.
Okay.
I'd say fake.
What's it called again?
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Fake.
It's a real movie.
Nah.
Starring Denise Richards and Paul Walker from 1994. It's Paul Walker's first movie.
Sideways.
So there's a couple movies in there that we could probably watch if you guys are interested. Dead Heat is one of them. Tammy and the T-Rex, Soul Man, Transylvania 65000, and Earth Girls Are Easy. Those are all the real ones. So, yeah, fucking Patrick blew that one out of the water.
Yeah,
you got 2 wrong?
Yeah, I got 8 out of 10.
And Kyle?
5.
You've known me so long, but apparently I can still...
Know you. Who are you?
Yeah, so thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Life Legends. The next time we record, we will probably be a little bit more prepared. I think we were trying to kind of make up for lost time this week because we missed an episode or 2. But I think next week we should almost just decide who's going to do what thing. But I think it'd be cool if we could do like a documentary / conspiracy one. And then the other person comes with like conspiracy type thing as well. Yep. And then a game. So we should try and switch it up every week.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I guess that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends about the podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Life with Kenny Pod, Life with Kenny Podcast on Facebook, and we'll be posting pictures and stuff from every episode on there. And feel free to message us some topics you might want us to cover. If there's interesting conspiracies and stuff you'd want us to look into, or just interesting stories, we're always open to that stuff. So I guess that's pretty much it. You guys got anything to say?
We actually recorded this episode immediately after the last one, but Kenny thinks the audience is stupid. Oh fuck, he's coming. Sorry. Hang on.
Also, fuck Lou Pearlman and Judge Reinhold.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like... Oh, no, Judge Reinhold's still alive, right? Is he?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna double check, but yeah, fair.
Yeah, anyways, get a life. Thanks for listening.
Bye.